But today's youth takeover service, as you can tell by everybody with their Edge shirts, where's Edge Youth at? That's what I'm talking about. It's good to have Edge Youth in the house. And let me tell you, look, I love the opportunity I have to be the youth pastor to this group of people. I think of it as a privilege. I know that it's my calling. I don't think of being a youth pastor as like a stepping stone, and I appreciate it. And I know you guys have great, it's funny, when you're the son of the pastor at a church, you've been here your whole life, like sometimes the congregation has more like plans for your life than you do. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I appreciate it. But I'm just telling you, I will be a youth pastor my whole life if that's what God wants me to do, and I don't think that that's a waste of my time. I don't think because I might never be a lead pastor, like I have no ambition to be a lead pastor. I know some of you guys are brokenhearted, but I'm telling you, I have no ambition to be a lead pastor. God might want me to do that someday, and if he does, then great. I'm ready for him to tell me what he wants me to do. But for now, this is my heart, is students. I love and believe in junior hires and high schoolers so much. I believe that God can move in their life. I believe they have the capacity to make the best decision of their life while they're in junior high. They don't have to settle for second best ever. Listen, this is important work, but one thing that I love about Edge Youth is, some people got their Edge shirts on, but other people have the sweaters and the shirts that say family member on them. And I know some of you guys were asking me, wanting to buy that or whatever. It's limited edition, sorry. Next time we sell stuff like that, I'll let you know. But for now, this is all we got. But that shirt and that jacket came from this idea that we were doing with a couple other churches in our area, a couple other youth groups in our area, where we wanted to really cement the idea of what being the church is all about. And I'm talking about the big church, not just this church, not just their church, the church, what we're actually called to do. Because I think so often church can be a community gathering or a social club or a meeting of like-minded individuals where we keep out the riffraff and we're safe in our little bunker. But we really wanted to lean into this idea that we are called to be the church and we are called to be a family. We are family members to one another. And let me tell you, it is revolutionary for other churches that don't really have affiliation. Some of them are a part of our Assemblies of God network, but I might make some people upset and let you know some of them weren't, okay? But we are combining together and saying we love Jesus and we love young people and we know that Jesus can change young people's lives. And so our time is better spent together than it is fighting each other and trying to be better or worse. I'm telling you, we decided as a unit that we were not going to be intimidated by each other, but we were going to be inspired by each other. And we are a family. And listen, I love it. And I know that the heart that I have for Edge comes from the heart that Pastor Steve has for La Palma. La Palma, and some of you guys sense that. Maybe you're new and you can kind of just feel like this is just different. It's because for us, this isn't just a church. This isn't just a social gathering. This is a family. It is a family that has room for everybody. It is a family that has room at the table for everybody. Listen, I say this every single week at Edge, and we got to get in the habit of thinking this way. But the great part about thinking of church as a family is I really think that's what church was meant to be all along. I think along the way, it kind of got twisted and messed up a little bit and turned into something that it was never supposed to be. Church was always meant to be a family because if it is a family, it becomes essential. Listen, we were created to be in relationship with God, but also with each other. But we were created to be in real relationship, deep, meaningful, life-giving relationship, not, hey, how you doing, brother? God bless. See you next week. Yeah, everything's great. Yeah, awesome. You too? Awesome. That's a social club. That's a community gathering. A family gets real with one another. A family is vulnerable with one another. A family doesn't have to pretend like they got everything together because they know that none of us have everything together and that we're not going to look down on somebody for being broken because we've all been broken and we all will feel broken again. But God is what unites us all. Relationship with Jesus is what unites us all. We have all fallen short of the glory of God, but His love extends to every single one of us. Look, family is essential. Social clubs and community gatherings are optional. You need to change the way you view this community, because this is not a social club. This is not a community gathering. This is a family. Thank you. Man. And so, with this idea of family, I want to talk about this one thing today. I have one point, right? And that's crazy. And so all my points start with the same letter and rhyme, because there's only one of them. But I have one point. But listen, I want to talk to you about why we need family. I want to talk to you about why this family, the church, first of all, we need to be a family, right? We got that. But if we are a family, I want to talk about why we need to be a family, or what the family means to us. And I think there's so many things that I could talk about concerning family, but today I just want to talk about one. And I'm not saying it's the most important reason, or even the best, but I wanted to talk about fishing. As you can tell, I care about evangelism a lot, but I couldn't shake it this week, just this idea of talking about this and doing what we're going to do later. Listen, today's message is going to be different. I have one point, and then we're going to do something at the end. The band's going to come back up, and we're going to do something a little bit different. And I'll say this is just a good way to live your life. You're going to get out of this what you put into it. You should take that into whatever you do in life, because I think a lot of times we get offended. Like, you want to do accountability, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. Stop waiting for somebody to come and ask you how you're doing. Go up and tell somebody how you're doing. In anything you do. And so for today, you're going to get out of today what you put into it. This could either be a super powerful, memorable service that you look back on and you never forget, or just that time the Edge Youth came and it was a little weird and different. But you're going to get out of what you put into it. So I got one point. Why we need family. We need family because the family sees what you can't. The family sees what you can't. The title of my message today is, Do You See What I See? Do you see what I see? You know, can I be vulnerable with you guys for a second? Can I be real with you guys for a second? We're a family, right? Okay, apparently first and second service never were taught this, but like when someone asks you a question, like when they say a word with like a question mark at the end of it, it usually calls for a response, right? So if I say right, that usually calls for a response. If I say right, that has a period at the end. You guys don't have to say anything. But I said right? Okay. It's weird that you guys never had that like come across you in life, but that's going to help you out a lot. When people have a question mark at the end of what they say, usually they want you to respond. So just tips, but I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to be vulnerable with you. Okay, this is a safe place. I'm going to tell you about one of my biggest fears, okay? One of my biggest fears. And so speaking of fears and biggest fears and everything like that, this is like a weird segue, so just follow with me, okay? Me and Tanner just got married, which is like a weird thing to say right after one of my biggest fears, but they're not connected. Me and Tanner just got married, and so we got back from our honeymoon 2 weeks ago or something like that, and it was awesome. And one part of our honeymoon, we were on a cruise, and the cruise had this newlywed game, right? A lot of cruises do that. So they had a newlywed game, and me and Tanner, we were participating, but not on stage. So that was good. But they asked questions, and we always wanted to see how well we knew each other and like how we did and everything like that. So we were just kind of playing in our seats and just answering the questions and then seeing if our answers matched up. And I will say this, like, we did pretty well. And I know all you like married people who've been married a long time are going to discourage me and be like, oh, it gets worse, or blah, blah, blah. Okay, you're awesome. You've been married a long time. Congratulations. Why do people do that? How is that encouragement? I'm so excited about my marriage. Oh, you're just young. I got to tell you, seriously, this is a pet peeve of mine. We need to encourage each other. There's another thing, not just with like me, because I'm married and I'm young, and then your encouragement to me is that marriage gets worse or it gets harder. Like, I get that that's truth, but like, let people be excited. Just because you're not excited doesn't mean you got to bum people out. But also, like with students, I want to punch someone in the face that looks at a junior higher who is like, man, I'm just struggling, my math test and this and that, and things that are so real to their life, and they look at them and belittle their struggle and say, life gets worse, life gets harder. That's not advice. Look, we got to change the way we respond to people. Their struggle, it might only be for the next 2 years or the next 4 years, but 2 years and 4 years looks like an eternity when that's what you're living in right now. Anyways, we were on the cruise, and we're happily married. Sorry. But they were playing the game, asking us questions, and they got to a question that was, what's your husband's biggest fear? And I knew my answer, right? I had my answer. And so my answer was being alone in the deep ocean. Being alone in the deep ocean, you can't see land on it. Like, the ocean's just scary. You know that there's like more of the ocean that we don't know about than we do know about? I don't want to mess with that. Like, that is not good. Dude, honestly, I'm such like a pastor now that automatically when I said that, my brain went into the ocean is like God, because there's so much we don't know about him. Like, I was ready to preach it. I had to like stop myself from saying it, but write that down. But no, I'm afraid of the deep ocean. I know that there's like people who have like psychology backgrounds that want to like analyze what that means, and are like, oh, you probably like didn't get enough hugs as a kid or something. Like, just save it. I'm fine. I just don't want to be alone in the deep ocean. It doesn't have a deeper meaning. Which I think like that fear is on the same level as like, I'm afraid of heights, or I'm afraid of clowns, or I'm afraid of spiders. Like, it's a pretty common fear and like answer. You know, it's pretty normal, surface level. And so I had my answer ready, and I asked Tanner, I'm like, what do you think my biggest fear is? And she looked at me in the eyes, and she said, your biggest fear is that your parents are going to die. And I was like, what the heck? Like, where did that come from? Like, that's so dark and real. And like, I'm talking about like being alone in the deep ocean. That's like a movie. That's like The Life of Pi. And she went straight to that. Like, I married Stephen King, you guys. Like, she went so deep and dark with it. But it's true. I was like, and then I was like wanting to cry thinking about that. And I'm like, thanks, you ruined the game. Seriously. But one of my biggest fears, other than those two, is that I'll get up on stage and preach a message or give an altar call, and then realize after I got off stage that my fly was down the whole time. Like, honestly, this is something that messes with me to the point where I have this little thing, this trick that none of you guys notice, but now you'll never ever be able to not notice. I did it when I got up here right now. You saw? Some of you guys in first service maybe saw, whatever. But I do this little trick because I don't want that to happen, but also I can't get on stage and just do a full examination of my zipper. That would be weird, and like no one's going to be with me on what I'm saying. Everyone will be like, hold up, man, what? Let's go back. What was that about, you know? So I'll be slick with it. So I'll do this where I'll hold my belt, because that's like normal. Just kind of pull my belt up a little bit, but while I pull it up, I make sure that I feel the top of my zipper. And as long as I feel the top of my zipper, we are good to go. I'm walking on stage with confidence and pride and everything like that. Because there would be nothing worse than getting up here and preaching, because I know none of you guys would let me know until afterwards. You would be, and some of you guys would be amening me like, oh, that's good and everything, and then I would realize that, and it would be the worst. But like, we've all had those moments, right? Like, where you've had that conversation with people. The worst is like when it's like serious, you know? Like, you're having a serious conversation with somebody. Maybe some of you guys like have people who work under you, and you're talking to your employees or the people under you, and you're giving them a speech, and then like you go and you look in the mirror and you realize that there's something in your tooth. And then it's always something that like you've never eaten before in your life. Like, that color, I don't know where that came from, and it's like so big and just right there, and it's noticeable, and you see it and you're just like, ah, man, that conversation doesn't matter. Like, I'm gonna have to just, but like, we all have those times. And let me tell you this, if you've had that happen, whether it's serious or not serious, and nobody said anything to you, those people are fake, okay? those people are not real friends. You don't need those people in your life. If people are letting you walk around with some nasty stuff in your teeth and just letting you live your best life like that, that's not the type of people you want in your life, right? The Bible talks about having grace and truth, okay? And it needs to be a balance. Let me tell you, people who let you walk around with stuff in your teeth, they're all grace, okay? They're like, maybe he wants to have stuff in his teeth. I don't know. Like, maybe that's his thing. Like, that's the life he wants to live. Got to let him live it, right? That's not real. But on the flip side, I don't need people who are all truth telling me about stuff in my teeth, because they always do it in the worst way possible, by embarrassing you and putting you on blast in front of everybody, right? They're always like, you're in the middle of telling a story, and people are going to laugh, but they're just like, hey, man, you got some stuff in your teeth, and then everything's done. So I'm telling you, the best way to do it is like this, a balance of grace and truth. Let's say, Pastor Steve, we're having a conversation. There's a bunch of people around us. And he's talking, and I notice that my man's got some stuff in his teeth, right? This is the move. You want to stand up? Remember this. I just taught you this has nothing to do with the Bible, but some of you guys are going to remember the fly tip and then this one too. These are going to be game changers. But you see somebody, and he's done with this conversation. Everyone's laughing like, oh, it's funny. I'm like, man, that was good. That was so funny. Hey, bro, you got something in your teeth, okay? Just take care of it. And then oh, yeah, great job. And then you walk away, and no one's the wiser, and he doesn't have to be embarrassed, but he knows that I'm real and that I'm loyal, okay? So do that. Have the balance. Be a good friend, right? So my point in all of this is there are times where we can't see things in our own life. There are times where we need other people to help us see what we can't, to help us see what we are blinded to in moments. And my favorite example of this in the Bible is found in 2 Kings chapter 6, starting in verse 9. 2 Kings chapter 6, starting in verse 9. If you want to, you could turn there. If not, it'll be on the screen and I'll read it for you. But it says this. But the man of God sent word to the king of Israel, beware that you do not pass this place, for the Syrians are going down there. And the king of Israel sent to that place, about which the man of God had told him. Thus he wanted to warn him, so that he saved himself there more than once or twice. And the mind of the king of Syria was greatly troubled because of this thing. And he called his servants and said to them, will you not show me who of us is for the king of Israel? And one of his servants said, none, my lord, O king. But Elisha, the prophet who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel the words that you speak in your bedroom. And he said, go and see where he is, that I may send and seize him. It was told him, behold, he is in Dothan. So he sent there horses and chariots and a great army, and they came by night and surrounded the city. When the servant of the man of God rose early in the morning and went out, behold, an army with horses and chariots was all around the city. And the servant said, alas, my master, what shall we do? He said, don't be afraid, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. Then Elisha prayed and said, O Lord, please open the eyes that he may see. So the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. Dear God, we thank you so much for your word. I pray that you would speak through me today, that it would be your words and not my own. God, I pray for this message, but I pray also for what we're going to do at the end of this. I pray that you would soften the hearts of the people here and help them to be ready for this experience that we're going to have together as a family. In Jesus' name, amen. So, in 2 Kings chapter 6, this is what's going on. Elisha is the prophet of God for the Israelites, right? And the nation of Israel is at war with the nation of Syria. And the nation of Israel is always at war with somebody, but now it's Syria. And Syria was a war, like a nation to be reckoned with, okay? They had great armies, great strategy, and they should have been taking over Israel easily. But what was happening was Elisha was getting words from God about the plan of attack from the king of Syria. And so they were ready for Syria's attacks at every turn. And it was getting so bad that the king of Syria was like, there is a spy, somebody's snitching. Who's telling them what we're going to do? And one of the king's servants like, nobody here, trust me, it's that guy Elisha, the prophet of God. He knows what you talk about in your bedroom. Which is just like one of those like, oh, in my bedroom? Like, dang, like, embarrassing, like, I don't know. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when someone's like, hey, I know. Like, that's such like a terrible thing to say to somebody, like, hey, I know. And then you're like thinking like, yo, what do you know? Like, what what exactly are you talking about? Because I'm not trying to admit to something that I don't need to admit to right now. But it was like that. He's like, he knows what you talk about in your bedroom, man. He knows all. And he's telling the king of Israel. And so the king of Syria is like, fine, perfect. If it's one guy, if this is the dude who's causing all the problems, let's send some firepower over there and take care of him. Send an army, send chariots, send soldiers. We're going to take care of this guy. So they send it to his house. And this is the thing. Elijah and his servant are there at the house. The servant wakes up first and is like getting things ready for the day. I picture like he wakes up, kind of like straightens the pillows on the couch out a little bit, like hits the Keurig machine, gets it going, starts grilling some eggs and everything to make sure Elijah's ready when he wakes up. And along the way, he like looks out the window and sees these horses and soldiers and chariots and this army surrounding the house. Not just any army, the Syrian army. Surrounding his house, and the servant starts freaking out, and he's like, Elijah, wake up, what are we going to do? And I just picture Elisha just like strolling along, like, just grabs his coffee, like takes a little sip, like does the whole, like, holds it with two hands, like, and then puts it down and like keeps walking, looks out the window and sees the army, and is just like, hey, don't worry. Those who are with us are greater than those who are with them. And then he prays that the servant's eyes would be open, and the servant sees surrounding this human army, not just outnumbering them, but filling the mountain behind them, an army of angels and chariots of fire, and just reminding him that our God is greater than the enemies that are coming against us. And it's powerful, but then I love what happens next. This doesn't really apply, but it's just interesting. Then Elisha goes outside and prays that God would blind the enemy. And whether that means they were like actually blind so they could only see, like it was dark, or if they were just blind to the fact that he was Elisha, we don't know. But like he walks outside and they're like, hey, have you seen Elisha? He's like, yeah, follow me. And Elisha leads the Syrian army to find Elisha in Samaria. And he walks them all the way to Samaria, and that's where the army of Israel and the king were at. And the king's like, dang, there's this Syrian army here. Should we kill him? And Elisha's like, no, we don't need to kill him. Like, let's feed him and give him some food and drink. And they feed him, and they give him food and drink, and then send them back to Syria, and then they leave them alone. They're not attacking Elisha. It was a crazy moment. And really, what this is, it's an incredible story of victory. But it's a victory for a lot of people, but really what I love focusing on, the one character I love to focus on in this story in 2 Kings is the servant. The servant, because this is an incredible victory that this servant got to be a part of. Maybe the biggest victory he ever saw in his life, when he woke up that morning and looked outside and saw the Syrian army and was sure that he was going to die. But God made a way. When it looked like he was surrounded, he realized that he was surrounded by God. It's an incredible story of victory, but it wouldn't have happened without Elisha in this servant's life. And I'm here to tell you, I know that we serve the God of victory. We serve a God who has already won. I'm telling you, we serve a God that fights and goes before us. And if you read the end of the book, we can be confident because our God wins in the end. We should have this perspective of victory when we walk through our life. And listen, having a perspective of victory and knowing that God will win the battles in your life. I'm not saying if you name it and claim it, it's going to happen. I'm just saying that God will provide for you. God knows what you need, and sometimes what you need is not what you want, but sometimes it is. But I'm telling you, we can have a perspective of victory knowing that God is in control. God's prepared victories for us already. He goes before us. We don't have to convince him. We don't have to earn it. We have to trust him. But I believe that there are some victories in our life that will only come through relationship with other people. I believe that there are some victories in our life that hinge upon somebody else being in our life and seeing something that we can't see, seeing a potential danger that's coming our way and protecting us, seeing something in us that we forgot about and reminding us of the power that God has for us. I'm telling you, we need family because family sees what you don't. And when it comes to family seeing what you don't, it breaks down in these two areas. And some of you guys are like, oh yeah, 1 point for sure. And but these are sub-points, so they don't count as real points. But it breaks down in 2 areas: protection and construction. Protection and construction. So let's first look at protection. Seeing what others don't see in the view of protection. Protection is really all just about seeing potential and upcoming dangers that someone else is unaware of. That's what the view of protection looks like. And this is the thing, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here talking about protection, because I think it's what we're drawn to most as Christians. So understand what I'm trying to say here. I think that as Christians, we all make it our duty to tell everybody around us what they're doing wrong. And we don't really care how that makes us look, or like if it is even effective in letting them know that what they're doing is wrong, because we have a right, no, a duty as Christians to tell everybody the negative and the wrong that's going on in their life. It comes a little bit too easy to us at some times. But I still got to talk about it, because as much as I think sometimes we do it the wrong way, we need to do it. I'm not here trying to be that young dude who's like, hey, don't harsh my vibe, guys. Like, I don't want to hear about what's going on. Like, no, I need people in my life who spot potential and upcoming danger that I'm unaware of. In fact, I seek it out. But hear this. I believe that the voice of protection, the ability to speak it into somebody's life, is something that you earn through relationship. Get this today. If you want to actually be effective in speaking the voice of protection in somebody's life and letting them know of potential dangers that they're unaware of, you should start by building relationship with those people. And I'm going to even go a step further. I think that the voice of protection is really more about believer to believer than it is believer to unbeliever. I'm not saying that we shouldn't let the world know what we stand for or what we believe, but I'm telling you, unsaved. We got to build relationship. I say this every Tuesday. You don't have to believe what we believe to be a part of this family. You don't have to believe what we believe to be a part of this family. We exist as Edge Youth to help people find a place where they belong and also find what they've been looking for. But we word it intentionally by saying find a place to belong first, because somebody might come in and be an atheist or be a Buddhist or be a Muslim or whatever, or just not even know what's going on in the world around them, and they just can't get with church because they've been hurt or this or that. And I'm saying you don't have to sign the contract. You don't have to repeat the prayer tonight, but know what we stand for, know what we believe. But no, we love you even if you don't believe the same thing we believe. The voice of protection, I believe, is more suited for believer to believer. Build relationship with people. Look, you want to speak into the lives of these young people? I know you do, because you do it whether they ask for it or not. But let me tell you, it's going to be a lot better received if you are intentional about building relationship in their life. Because if all you're looking to do is tell them, hey, that shirt or that skirt's inappropriate. Hey, that music choice is inappropriate. Hey, these are all the things that you're doing wrong. Look, I made a list. Then you might as well just keep that to yourself. Look, and I know that I'm saying things that are like rubbing people the wrong way, but I'm doing this on purpose because we need to change our perspective. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying do it, but do it the right way. Do it the way that family does it. Do it the way that takes a little bit more work, because it's easy to do it through a screen or on social media or to just put it out there, but it takes a little bit more constraint and control to be like, I'm going to love people and then I'm going to stand for something at the same time. How do I do that? It might not just be natural, but it's worth it. Look, when it comes to the voice of protection, hear this. Don't be offended and don't be afraid. Don't be offended. And don't be afraid. Don't be offended when a family member who loves you cares enough to come and to speak into your life. Look, as much as I'm kind of like really leaning this way about be careful, build relationship, we need people to point out potential dangers in our life. I'm telling you, I need some people who have seen more life than me to speak into my life. And I'm not even saying you got to sugarcoat it. I'm not even saying that it's got to be, oh, hey, sweet Eliot, I just want to let you. No. If you've already built relationship with me, then you could tell me I'm being an idiot when I'm being an idiot. But if you've not built that relationship, don't you dare come and say that to me. I will tell Jelani he's being an idiot when he is being an idiot. Hey, and let me say this. It's less than it used to be. But listen, I've earned the right to speak into this man's life because I've done life with him, because we've walked life together. Also, because not all that I'm speaking is just the negative and pointing out what he's doing wrong. I'm also speaking positivity and life into him way more than I am talking about what he needs to fix or the upcoming dangers. But I'm telling you, you better believe that if this dude is out on the street and he's got his headphones in and he's just jamming out and he's got his eyes closed and he doesn't see what's going on around him and there's a bus coming at him, I'm not going to just stand there and let it hit him. I'm going to say what needs to be said even if he doesn't want to hear it. But I've earned that right. Don't be offended when somebody comes in and points out a potential danger that you might not see. Be thankful. In fact, let me take it even further. Don't be offended. Don't just not be offended. Go and seek it out. Look, I want people's opinions so much that I will meet with people specifically just to see what they think about decisions I'm making. You know how long, I know I'm young and some of you guys are like, man, you're so young to get married, but you know how many people I had to talk to and mentor with and see what they thought before I even thought about proposing to Tanner, because I care about what people think in my life, because I'm not just this dude who's like, it's my call, I'll do what I want. I know that I am better with other people's investment in my life, so we all need that. And listen, some of you guys need to understand, like, don't be offended when people speak to you, but people need to speak to you. Some of you guys are like, I am the voice of reason. I will listen to his next point about not being afraid. But no. Don't be offended. You still need people to point out potential and upcoming dangers in your life no matter what phase of life you're in. This is what being community is all about. We need to look for it. But also don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to do it. Because even if you do it the right way, people still might not like it. The truth can be offensive. The truth can be offensive. You don't have to be offensive. The truth can be offensive. You don't have to be offensive, right? So there's still time. I'm not saying don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not preaching a message of, as Christians, we got to tippy-toe around and be careful and be politically correct. No. I'm just saying we could still love people and not just try to stir up mess on purpose, because the truth of God does that enough in people's lives on its own. But don't be afraid to do it. Like I said, if I see a bus coming, I don't care if it's going to hurt his feelings that I stopped his dancing. Because he needs to know that there was something he wasn't aware of that I saw. Protection. But again, that's not really what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the voice of construction. Construction. Construction just means to build up. You know, there's some construction workers here, you know, you guys are in the business of building. You make something that wasn't. You build buildings and structures, machines, whatever. But like construction is the business of building up. And like the voice of construction is the voice that builds up. And this is really what I want to land on today. This is what I want to really just meditate on, is this idea of speaking life into people's life. There's a time for the voice of protection, sometimes. But the voice of construction is necessary all the time. Look, we live in a world that I feel like this has always been around, right? But I feel like the time we're living in right now, the grip that anxiety and depression and self-doubt and suicide has on all of us, especially the younger generation, is ridiculous. And the time has come for us as Christians to stop just looking at it and like feeling victims to it. We are not victims to anything. We've already been given the victory over these attacks. But the way we combat this is through speaking life into other people, seeing in them what they don't see in themselves. Look, I love this story because a servant looked outside and saw an army that he was sure was going to take him out. And so often I feel like that's how we feel. We look at the circumstance or the situation that's surrounding us, and it looks like a Syrian army coming up against two people. It looks hopeless. It looks so like there's no way we're ever going to get out of this. But then Elisha comes, and this is what I love about this story. I think sometimes we think that to combat like some of this darkness or attacks that the enemy gives us, we think that faith equals being delusional. You know what I'm saying? We've all had these moments. We think that being faithful means ignoring the problem. Like, I'm not even going to address the problem. Like, I don't want to even like look at the problem. I'm going to pretend like the problem isn't there. Like, what army are you talking about? I don't see an army. God is so good. And I'm not saying that like I'm just saying, listen, faith in God doesn't mean you have to be delusional to your situation. Addressing a situation doesn't give that situation power if you also address the God who is greater than that situation, because that's what Elisha does. He comes in and he doesn't, the servant's freaking out, and he's like, there's an army, what are we going to do? And he doesn't say, man, what army? I don't see an army. All I see is the goodness of God. And then the dude's like, are you kidding me? There's an army, you know? We don't have to be these Christians who, when your coworker's like, man, I got this diagnosis from the doctor, you're like, I don't believe that, or whatever. Like, you could say, I see that diagnosis, but I also know that there is a God who is greater. This is what Elijah said. He said, I see that army, but those who are with them are not as good as those who are with us. The God of angel armies is on our side, and he prayed that God would open his eyes, and he looked again, and he saw what he didn't see before. Look, we need family in our life, guys, because in isolation, you can only see the situation. The enemy is strategic. It says he is like a lion who's trying to get you alone. The lions, when they attack, they like to isolate their prey and get the weakest and get them alone. Look, stop playing into the battle plan and strategy of the enemy. When you start to feel weak, and when you start to feel discouraged, and when you start to feel like you're not loved or whatever, when you get in that zone of anxiety and depression and whatever, where we automatically are like, I need to step back. I just need a me time on Sunday. It's just so draining. I just need to stop serving. I just need to get away from ministry. I want to, I appreciate the text that girl sending me and wanting to encourage me, but I just can't right now. You are playing in to the battle attack of the enemy. He is trying to isolate you, because in isolation, you can only see your situation, but community produces clarity. Community produces clarity. And Elisha came in and he said, okay, look, yeah, I see the army. Servants freaking out. There's an army. They're going to kill us. They're coming up against us. And Elijah comes in and he says, okay, yeah, I see the army out there. I'm addressing your situation. I'm not ignoring what's going on. I see your anxiety. I see your depression. I see thoughts of suicide. I see broken marriages. I see sickness. I see these financial difficulties. I see it all. I address the army that's coming against you. But hey, come here. No, come to the window again. Let's look outside. That's all. The army's there, but look again. Do you see what I see? Because I see everything that you just talked about, but I also see a God that is greater than everything. A God who has all power and all authority in his name and has granted us that power and authority here on earth, that says we are greater than our circumstance or our situation, that there is no thing on hell on earth that can come against us when we have the name of Jesus on our side. I'm telling you, these armies can come and these armies can go, but look again, do you see what I see? I had the band come back up. You know, family is important because faith is contagious. Look, the servant was low in faith. The servant looked out and all he saw was his situation. But he had Elisha there with him who could see and was remembering the faithfulness of God in the circumstance and in the situation. This is why we need family, and this is why we need to be real about our brokenness. We need to be real about our fear of the armies that are coming against us. Listen, during this time of planning the wedding and everything, it was stressful, right? And I felt attack after attack. But I'm telling you, I'm not so proud that I don't want people on my side. And at one point during all of this, we went into the women's prayer group. The women's do a prayer on Tuesday mornings, and it's great. It's thriving. It's growing. We went in and we were vulnerable, even as their pastors, and we're like, look, we believe in what you're doing. We believe in the power of prayer, and I need this in my own life. Guys, stop pretending like everything's okay. Stop acting like there's no armies that are scaring you or coming against you or that you're feeling low. Like being a part of a family doesn't mean that you don't go through doubts or difficulties or disbelief or fear or anxiety. It just means that we go through it together. Faith is contagious. Look, you might be feeling low, but I promise you somebody in here is going to be feeling high. And at times, when you can't see it and all you see is a situation, I promise you, there's going to be a family member that comes around you and says, I see that, but I also see the God's armies, the provision of our Lord that is surrounding us even now in this moment. Guys, we need each other. But look, we don't just need family to see what God can do in your situation. It's powerful. We need family as well to see what God is doing in you. See what God is doing in you. If I could have Caitlin, come in, just put those. Give me some, thank you. Listen, this is the part of the service that I told you to be open-minded about. And if you've got lunch plans or whatever, you might have to leave right after, but I would encourage you to not. First service was here till 10:25, continuing with this. Don't miss this opportunity. Because we did this thing where we talked about this exact message in youth. Family. And family seeing what we can't see. And we ended that night by doing this. We got these bracelets here. They're just yarn. But really, the yarn represents so much more because we did this months and months ago. I got some new ones in first service, but most of these are from months ago, before summer started. But I've been wearing them every single day, so much so that I got a tan line on my wrist from wearing these. Because each one of these represents something powerful. First of all, it represents a reminder of who my God is. That I don't care what army or circumstance or situation that I might see outside my window that's coming against me or attacking me, that God is surrounding me. Even when it looks like I'm surrounded, He is still surrounding me, and He is still able, and He still has power and authority in His name. But it also reminds me of a family member of mine, a student or a leader who came up to me and spoke life into me. Reminded me of who I was, even when I didn't feel like that. And I'm telling you, that moment was great, and I felt great in that moment, but there's been so many moments since then when I've looked at it and I've not felt like what they told me I was, but I remember what they said and what they spoke over me. And lastly, it just represents the truth of who I am, of who God has declared me to be, of not what the world says about me, of not what I feel about myself, but of who I am. And so today, what we're going to do to end this service is the worship team is going to sing this song that's been like my go-to for the past months and months about fighting our battles and being surrounded by God even when we feel like our situation's surrounding us. And while they do this, I want us to do this thing. It's an action step. And you're going to get out of this what you put into this. This will either be a very powerful, life-changing Sunday that you're going to remember, or that silly bracelet thing the youth did. But it's up to you. I want this also to go outside of this service. But we're going to speak life. Look, the best way to combat the lies of the enemy is to speak life into each other. And the best way to do that is as a family. It's one thing to speak life over yourself. It's another thing to have a brother or sister that loves you and cares about you to speak life in your weakness. It takes strength to do it alone, but it's so much better to do it together. I don't think it's an accident that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego went into the fiery furnace as a unit. I think that story could have happened with just Shadrach, with just Meshach, with with just Abednego. But the level of faith to look at Nebuchadnezzar and say, I know what my God can do, but even if he doesn't, I'm still not going to bow down and worship. I'm going to stand strong and stand firm on the truth. That takes family. That takes community. That takes unity. That takes reminding each other of who we are. And that's what we're about to do today. We are fighting battles today when we tie these bracelets around each other's wrists. So let me show you what I'm looking for, and then we're going to actually do this, okay? So I'm going to give a bracelet to Daisy. Man. Daisy, every time you look at this bracelet, I want you to remember that God loves you, and that he has you, and that he's got all the power and authority. But also, every time you look at this bracelet, I want you to remember this. You're not overlooked. And again, we're doing this in front of a bunch of people, but this is about me and you right now. You're not overlooked. I know who your parents are. I know who your siblings are, but God has a special and unique plan for you. You are necessary to him, and you will do things that me and Butler and mom and dad will never do. You will reach people that I will never meet. And I want you to know that God has things that he's put in your life. Don't ever second guess yourself. Don't ever put yourself at a lower place than what you actually are. You are beautiful, and you are special, and God has a plan for you. Love you. Miss Bonnie, I want to give you a bracelet. Miss Bonnie, every time you look at this bracelet, I want you to remember what you already know to be true and what you've lived your life on, that God is faithful in every situation. But I also want you to know, when you look at this bracelet, how much you mean to me personally, and what your faithfulness has meant to me and so many others. You are I want to say statue. I don't know how to say it, but you are something that we look to and see that there is hope. I see students, and I want to see students become Miss Bonnie one day. There is something so pure and strong in your faithfulness that no matter what life has thrown at you, you have stood firm on the rock that is Jesus, and that inspires me and so many others. I love you. You already know. Lloyd, I'm going to give you this bracelet, man. Every time you look at this bracelet, I want you to remember the power of God. That there is no attack that comes against you, no authority that the enemy has over your life, that God has already paid the price and the victory is already yours. And I also want you to know, every time you look at this bracelet, you're not in this fight alone. I want you to know this truth. Your daughters are in the hands of a loving Father, and he sees your faithfulness, and he sees your heart, and he sees the commitment. But bro, it takes a village, and I'm telling you, they are a part of a family. And at times when you're feeling lonely and you feel like you're at the end of your rope and you feel like you have no support, know that you have people like me and people in this family. And I can't speak for everyone, but I will speak for myself. As long as I am in your daughter's life, as long as we are doing this together, they will know how precious they are. They will know what their identity is. There will be no guy that will be able to come and speak identity, because they will know what they are worth. They are princesses. They are daughters of the King. I will fight for you, and I will fight for your family. I love you. Listen, if everyone could stand up. This is what we're going to do. And I didn't do that just because, I wanted you guys to see me talk to these people. I mean every single word that I said. And every bracelet that I gave out was for a purpose and for a reason. So what we're going to do right now, as the worship team leads us in a time of worship, we're just going to take advantage of this time and speak life and do battle. And I want you to do it the way that I just did it. I'm not saying go and tell somebody you like how their shoes look. I'm telling, speak life into somebody's situation and remind them of the truth of who they are, because this is what being a family is about. Reminding each other of the power that our God has. Speaking truth into our situations, no matter what armies come against us, so that we can stand firm and remember that we are a part of a family and that we will fight our battles together.